Are you ready to be that bitch? I'm like, of fucking course you are. Welcome to the show with real stories from women who chose their highest vision and never looked back. That bitch didn't happen overnight, but she was always on her fucking way. You guys, welcome to the That Bitch podcast. I am so excited to have another special guest with us today, an absolute icon. We have Chloe Daniels with us, aka Clobare Money Coach. Chloe is an award-winning financial educator who's helped over 14,000 students invest millions and grow their wealth the lazy way. She paid off $70,000 in debt, grew her net worth by $600,000 in about 6 years, and turned her side hustle into $1 million business. Like, what the fuck? All while making money feel fun, accessible, and shame-free. Her motto is build wealth the lazy way. Oh my God, Chloe, I'm so excited to have you. Welcome to That Bitch podcast.
Thank you. You really make me sound like that bitch with that intro.
Oh, well, shocking. See, you guys, this is it. It's like everybody comes on, and then after you leave here, Chloe, you're going to be like, oh my God, I just had like an energy bath of that bitch, you know?
Yeah, I'm just amazing and incredible. Because, we don't spend a lot of time thinking about it, you know? Like, we're too in the weeds of stuff that it's like rare to take a moment to look at how far we've come.
It literally, exactly. And it's one of those things where the whole like premise of this podcast is that so many women don't recognize that they are being that bitch 90% of the fucking time. And we just don't slow down to actually see. And when, for me and for many people, and honestly, Chloe, I guarantee for you in some way, shape, or form too, it's like the more that you can actually see this about yourself, the more you operate differently, the more you go after bigger things. You're going to put yourself in bigger rooms. You're going to go after bigger opportunities. And it's like, yes, because you are that fucking bitch. Just own it. Just be it. Be her. And that is exactly who you are. I am so excited to dive into Chloe's story today, you guys. So many people know that on my podcast, I ask people specific questions before they come in because I want to know what your that bitch moments are. And I literally was reading your that bitch moments, Chloe, your that bitch moment number one specifically, where I literally jaw on the floor and I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to dive into this. So
wait, what was it? I can't even remember what it was.
This is what I love. This is what I love. So, okay, so this is what you said. You said in 2015, I had to leave China because of a very scary ex who wanted to kill me, and I had no idea what I was going to do next. What in the fuck? Talk to me about this. Talk to me about this.
Yeah. So when I lived in China, it was 2014 and 2015 when I lived there. And I met somebody who quickly, we had like a very whirlwind early 20s relationship. We ended up getting engaged, and he ended up having some like breaks with reality. He started to believe that he was God, and he also started to believe that I was both a demon who stole his angel away from him, but his angel was also me. And so I had to like constantly play this game of like, okay, I gotta like bring him back to reality. And it was this like balancing act of being like, is this what you mean? Is this what you're talking about? But essentially, like, there were several times looking back that I didn't realize my life was in danger at the time.
Yeah.
But once I got out, I had this moment of like, oh, holy shit. Like, that dude just had like probably a paranoid schizophrenic break.
Yep.
We're not sure. It also could have just been like a drug-induced psychosis because he smoked hash, like cigarettes. Like he was smoking a lot of weed. And so eventually he got hospitalized into a mental institution in China, which was an experience in of itself. And then he got deported. But then he somehow got back into the country, and the last I knew, this man hated me and wanted me dead. So I ended up leaving China and coming back to the United States because I was like, you know what? I'm not really having a good time here anyway. Like, now this guy is back, and like he's a dangerous person. He was a pretty there were definitely times where he had violence towards other people. Luckily, like, the violence towards me was pretty limited. But yeah, it was a really scary, weird experience.
Okay. It sounds like it. Sounds like it.
Yeah,
Like,
and I mean, I can talk about it lightly now because it's been 10, 11 years since it happened, but it fucked me up for a really long time.
Of course it
Yeah.
fucked you up. But okay, so like in these moments, right? So like this is the way that I describe like that bitch moments. It's like the moments where either we finally choose ourselves. It's like you have a snap, you come to reality, a like line in the sand moment of like, fuck me, what am I doing? Why am I in this space? And it's like, it's almost like a tunnel of like, it all hits you like a ton of bricks at once, where it's like,
Yeah.
what? Right? And it's like, but most people, the truth is like, we see this all the time. We see women who end up staying. We see
Mhm.
women who end up just like saying that it's like, well, this is my life. This is the decision I made. This is who I have to be. This is where I am right now. Oh my God, what is my family going to think? What are people going to blah, 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 blah. But like
Totally.
that bitch always chooses herself. So like in this moment when you're in China, which why were you in China in the first place?
I was teaching English there. So when I graduated college, my goal in life was to teach English in other countries.
So
And I went to China because I thought it was going to be a big challenge, and it was. I also really wanted to learn Mandarin. I already knew Spanish. I obviously already speak English, and so I was like, let me learn some Mandarin as well. Just because I thought it would be cool. Because like if you know those three languages, you can communicate with like most people in the world. So that was kind of why I chose China.
Okay, if you guys are not watching the video, you would have just seen my face was like frozen with my mouth dropped open. Chloe, what in the fuck? Like, do you guys hear? Do you hear even like what she just said? It's like, well, I wanted a challenge, so I chose China. Do you or, like that is a that bitch mentality? That's a that bitch process of like growth. Throw me into it. I want to figure it out. Like that's how that bitch operates all the time, which is why Chloe, you have $1 million business. There's literally a direct correlation why you've been able to build what you've been able to build because of how you function and operate. But then, let alone the mere fact that you're like, oh, and then I wanted to learn Mandarin and I know this and I know, like, come on. Like, that's also, it's like, even the way that you just articulated that about how cool it would be like, it would be cool if I could do this. I
Mhm.
swear that's the mentality that I use for literally everything. It's the question. I even for sales, actually, I literally will be like, what's a fun, cool way for me to make money today? How do I want to sell today? What would be fun
Yeah,
to
I
say
love
at the end
that.
of the day of like, fuck, that was so cool, right? And so it's like the same concept here. But okay, so you're in China because you're a fucking rad human being and you're doing the damn thing. And in that moment, though, it's like, did you have fears of leaving or what people were gonna think, or were
Oh,
you
yeah. Well, the reason I stayed, so all of this that went down with my ex-fiance, what it happened in the first year, like the first 6 months that I was in China. It was like
wow.
boom, boom, boom. And then afterwards, I was dealing with like very, very intense, I didn't know it at the time, PTSD,
Yep.
because I was just so confused by what had happened. I took a lot of blame. I thought a lot of it was my fault because I felt like I didn't do enough to keep him out of the hospital, or I didn't do enough to like help him early on, because I kept like when he'd have these delusions and stuff, I would like talk through it with him to try and get him to a better place,
Yeah.
rather than being like, this guy needs to go to the hospital immediately, because I just thought like, oh, like something's going on here, so like let me just like talk through this. So I was dealing with a lot of guilt and shame and feeling like I was the problem, which is a common theme in my life from my childhood, of just like immediately assuming I'm the problem in most situations. So I was dealing with that, but I was also dealing with, oh my God, I can't go home. What am I going to do when I go home? I have a degree in English and a degree in Spanish, and I'm teaching English in China. I don't want to go home and teach in the American school system. That's not
Yeah.
like the life path that I want to choose. And
Yep.
when I had graduated college, it was 2012, and there were still just like no jobs after the great financial crisis of like the early 2000s.
Girl, you're preaching to the choir.
And so
That's
I was just
yeah.
like, yeah, I was just terrified. I was like, nobody's going to want to hire me. I'm going to be in a shitty situation where like I was really worried I was going to be back in the same situation that I was when I left to go to China. Before I left for China, I was working at an ATM company doing customer service for people who owned ATMs, and I
Oh,
was being
fuck.
paid like $13 an hour, and I was
Mm.
like,
That's
that
not the
sucked.
vibe.
That was miserable. I hated that experience. And so I was terrified. And then
Yep.
I would spend time trying to apply to jobs back in the United States, and like just essentially got nothing for a while. So honestly, part of me, when I look back at it now, I'm glad he came back to China, because I don't think I would have left if he had come back. I think I would have made myself stick it out, because it was the job I had in China was really cool. I was a regional support officer who traveled all around the country to
So
help
cool.
open schools. And
Yeah,
so it was like a dream job for the previous version of myself. But then
totally.
obviously after everything happened, what I wanted changed, because I was like, I was no longer equipped to stay in China. I had so much anxiety and PTSD over the whole experience. And so it was like, well, how do I reconcile the fact that I now have a dream job that used to be a dream, but my dreams have changed? And so luckily him coming back to China just made it an easy decision, because it was like, I am not having a good time here anyway. And I'm like, clearly I need support. I need to be around my family and friends because I was really isolated in that job.
Yep.
Um, and so I was able to call my boss and just tell him what was going on. And he weirdly enough had a father who had paranoid schizophrenia and knew how dangerous it was to be around somebody or be even in the same country as somebody who wants you dead
Yep.
and also is dealing with paranoid delusions. And so he
Yep.
was just like, yeah, you got to do what you got to do. And so I'm really lucky that I had like good support at that time because I
Totally.
don't know if I would have left.
Okay, what's crazy, Chloe, it's like this whole story, like, obviously, I didn't know any of this. She didn't put any
Yeah, yeah.
details of this, and anybody that knows my stories already know they're gonna know what I'm about to say, but I grew up in a household with a father who has schizoaffective disorder,
Whoa.
and he was unmedicated. So, I
Oh,
totally understand danger. Like,
yeah.
it is literally I don't think people understand how fucking dangerous it actually is. Like,
Yeah, and it's like when you read the stories of people who have been killed by somebody with
yep,
a paranoid schizophrenia or paranoid delusions, it is always the people that are closest to them that are trying their best to help them. And
always.
that was me. And it was like I didn't even know that that was like the position I was in until he left the country the first time because
Yeah,
like I was so entrenched in it of like, I got to save him, I got to save him, I got to do whatever I can to keep him in this country. I don't want to lose who I thought the love of my life was at the time, but again, thankfully, things worked out the way that they did.
totally. Well, and that's another concept that you even just said too. Like you said something along the lines of like, okay, but like this was my dream, but it's no longer my dream. And it's like, you guys,
Yeah,
that I want you guys to hear that because that bitch, this bitch that you become, right? She allows herself to evolve and to go to the next chapter, to go to the next dream. She's not like gripping to the old version of herself. It's literally like, no, let me go find out what even if it's fucking uncomfortable, even if it's sticky. And if you're like, oh my God, people are going to judge me, people are going to, she still chooses it anyway. And so
totally.
that's fantastic because I also am hearing an interesting little fun pattern out of you when you were just talking about a savior. And it's like,
Mm,
I need to save, I need to save.
mhm.
Chloe's next, that bitch moment, you guys, is where she's talking about how she had to learn how to be her own savior. So let me read this one, Chloe, and then we can talk a little bit about this because then Chloe, it's 2018 now, and she's saying that she realized that she needed to be her own savior after a string of abusive relationships that left her broke financially and emotionally. And this is when you started learning everything you could about money, thinking that was your ticket out. So let's talk a little bit about this moment.
Yeah, so after I got back from China, I had undiagnosed PTSD, and I basically just kept putting myself in the same situations over and over again. Where
Yep.
when I came back from China, and realized that I was in such a dangerous situation that, like, I never thought I would be in. I never thought I'd be in an abusive relationship. I never thought I'd be the type of person, and I'm using air quotes, the
Yeah.
type of person to end up in an abusive relationship. And that scared the shit out of me. I was like, oh my God, I couldn't even see that I was in an abusive relationship until I got out of it and back home. And like, that's scary because
Yeah.
my life was literally in danger at multiple times. And so it kind of like obliterated any trust I had with myself.
Yep.
And so once I got back to the United States, I ended up in like this string of pretty abusive relationships where I was repeating the pattern over and over again because I was looking for safety outside of myself. I had basically told myself, clearly, look at those decisions you just made in China. Clearly, you cannot trust yourself with these life decisions. Clearly,
Totally.
you need to tie yourself to somebody who makes better decisions, who's more financially secure, who can like do all of this shit because like, girl, well, we don't want to end up in that situation again. And so
Right.
I kind of doubled down on this and it was kind of it was conscious and unconscious in ways like I didn't
Always.
understand. Yeah, like I didn't understand. I knew what I was looking for. I was looking for a stable person who was like, going to like tell me what my path was essentially. I like
Yeah.
really wanted someone to tell me what to do with my life. And kept putting that on like romantic partners and things like that.
Yep.
But when you're looking for safety outside of yourself and you're looking for somebody to tell you what to do and you're looking for somebody to be the adult in the relationship, you're going to attract not great people. You're going to
Totally.
attract people who want to be in control of you. They want to be the person who is making the financial decisions or, controlling whatever the outcome is of whatever it is that you're focusing on. And so I found myself in those patterns over and over again. The worst one that I ended up with was right before 2018 when I decided, you know what, I can't keep operating at this. I had gotten back with an ex of like, it was like a 10-year on and off thing with a super, super verbally abusive and borderline physically abusive as well. But essentially, he had been using my credit cards to fund his business ventures and like was putting me into credit card debt and really just desecrating my credit score. And I let him because like I felt like it was like, oh, look at I can support my boyfriend in this way. Never mind the fact that like this was not a trustworthy person. This was not somebody that now being 35 years old and looking back, if my daughter was dating a person like this, I'd be very concerned. Um,
Totally.
but I didn't know any better, and I didn't think I was capable of doing better for myself.
Sure.
And so that relationship was so bad that it eventually got me into therapy, thankfully. And I
Yeah.
went into therapy for like eating disorder stuff. I didn't even go to therapy thinking that the problem was the relationship or my PTSD. And through
Interesting.
yeah, and through that, it took about a year before my therapist was like, "Hey, you actually have PTSD from like all this shit, and like we need to work through that." But as I started working through all that stuff and I started healing, by the end of 2018, I had kind of just gotten to the point where I looked around at the situation that I was in. It was about a little less than a year after I ended things with that very abusive partner that I lived with in Chicago. And I looked around and I was like, is this like how I want the rest of my life to go? Like where I'm just constantly broke, I'm in debt. I'm not making any progress. I'm like not happy with like my job. I'm not happy with really anything? Like, looking
Yeah.
back, like, there was really nothing I was particularly stoked about in my life at the time.
Yep.
And with my favorite life mantra in mind, "Dumber people than you have figured it out before," I was like, "Okay, let me what is, like, the one thing that I think would really help me change my life?" And it was money. It was like, "How do I build security and safety for myself so that I can do all this other stuff?" Like, doing all this other stuff, taking a break from work, finding what I'm passionate about, getting a new job or starting a business, like that is easier to figure out when money is good. Like
Is good. Yeah.
when I got a savings account, when I have an emergency fund, when I'm not in debt up to my eyeballs. And so I just decided in that moment, it was like around September 2018, I think it was. And I was just like, all right, let me just try to do something different and let me just try to see if I can get a little bit better at this stuff. And then I became obsessed and, here we are now.
Oh my God, I fucking love that. My God, I literally that's hilarious. What it's like once I always say this, and honestly, it's hilarious. I'm literally about to run an offer called Obsession because
Ah,
it's like once you're actually obsessed with what you're doing and where you're going and what you're building and why you're like everything opens up for you. But it's like
yeah,
you have to actually let yourself get to a point of figuring that out. And for some people, it's a trial and error process where they don't find it their first two, three, four times, then all of a sudden they do. And it's like your life can literally change drastically if you allow yourself to play a little bit here.
totally.
Um, but I love this aspect for you where you just brought up like so much that it's like the tagline or part of my intro here saying that that bitch didn't happen overnight, but she was always on her way. It's like
Hmm.
there are so many moments in our life. I mean, like I just said to you, my childhood was absolutely fucking hellacious. Like from an outside perspective, it didn't look like I was that bitch in my childhood. It didn't
Hmm.
look like my own PTSD that I dealt with on the aftermath of that didn't look like I was being that bitch in the moment. But it's like all of these moments ended up getting you to the point where you are that bitch. I mean, easily. Actually, Chloe, like fun fact, I literally just shared your account with a client today who I was like, I want you to go look at Chloe's content and I want you to look at how she's building this because it's
Mm.
so different than da 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 da, whatever. And she was like, oh my God, I'm fucking obsessed with this woman. And I was like, yeah, I knew you would be, you know? Anywho. And so it's this aspect now where it's like, even in the moments where maybe you weren't operating as that bitch and maybe old patterns were coming in and past identities were actually dictating what you went after, how you showed up in this world, the decision to rise again and again and again to quite literally be like, I deserve more. And that fucking question, it's like, I wish more people on this fucking planet would just ask themselves the question at 90 years old, do you want to look back at your life and how it's going right now? And does that feel good? Do you
Mhm.
feel like at 90
Yeah.
you're gonna feel like this was it? I was fulfilled and I did the thing here? Or are you gonna feel like, I fucking hated it. I had anxiety the whole time. I wasn't happy. I never got to do anything. Like, okay, go fucking change it then, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's literally this is your only life. And that is that question that you just posed of like, when I'm on my deathbed, am I going to be disappointed that I didn't at least try to do
Exactly.
something about it? And that's literally what made me start Clobare Money Coach. Like, that's literally that question is what has like made me pivot so many times in my life when I'm faced with like this hard decision. It's like, would I regret not at least trying? And if the answer is yes, I'm
You
gonna
gotta fucking do
try.
it.
I'm gonna figure it out. I don't wanna live with regrets, especially in things that are within my control.
Well, and that okay, so, like, that's exactly it, you guys. Again, like, that bitch, this is how she functions, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
like, when my husband and I go we love to travel. We're fucking travel whores for sure, and, the one vacation we were on we were in, Martha's Vineyard and, off of Cape Cod,
Okay.
and there's the Jaws bridge, like, the actual movie Jaws that, like, the fucking shark was coming under or whatever, they call it the Jaws bridge, and everybody on the fucking planet goes there to jump off this goddamn bridge. Literally everybody. And so we're all pulled over on the side of the road. My whole family, some of the people are chickening out. Some people are like ready to jump. They're like stripping down as fast. They're so nervous and they're like
Oh my
going for it.
gosh.
And my husband dives in right away and he's all the way down and I'm standing on this ledge because it's my turn next. And I was like, I shaking, shaking. And what the hilarious point of my this hilarious moment for me, I was holding probably a little girl came up to me who was probably 7 years old holding my hand. And she was like, I just jumped in. You can do it too. And I
That's
literally
so
was like,
sweet. You're like, "You're that bitch, little
I was,
girl."
yeah, I was like, I am not in this moment, you know?
That's so
And,
cute.
anyway, my husband all the way down in the ocean yelled up at me and he goes, "Kim, what story do you wanna tell at the end of today?"
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I literally I jumped in. That was it.
Oh, I
It
love
was
that reframe. That's such a good reframe.
like, it's like,
Yeah.
that's all that it is, and it's the same thing here where it's like, I don't think people recognize that this happens. It doesn't just happen in the business moves you make. It
No.
doesn't just happen in like deciding to do it. It happens in your personal life all the fucking time. And if
Mhm.
anything, it's like that's what's fueling your business moves. That's what's fueling the decisions that you make. And that's why you have the results that you have. And it's why you've been able to build what you've been able to build.
Mhm.
Um, and so even though, like, you've gone through the trenches, even though you had massive amounts of healing and processing and moving through shit to become this person, it's like, that's what that bitch chooses.
Yeah. Yeah.
A
Yeah.
and I think so many people will often, like, "That's too scary. Oh my god, it's uncomfortable. Like, that's too hard for me to look at." Like, when in
Well,
reality, come on, you
yeah,
know?
it's one of those things. What I have noticed with this might be a hot take,
Sure.
but what I have noticed with successful business owners, the most successful ones that I know had some of the toughest childhoods that I know.
100%.
And I think, like, you see it also with, there's been studies on this, like immigrants, they are some of the best business owners because they have been through the trenches.
Yep.
Immigrating to the United States, depending on how you did it, like, it is hard to
Yeah.
do. It is hard being an immigrant. It's hard building from nothing. It is
Yep.
hard coming here and being treated differently. Like every aspect of it is hard. And so they found that like immigrants are really incredible business owners because it's like in comparison to what they went through in the rest of their life,
It's
it's
nothing.
not that hard. It's not hard in comparison. And I think too, like when we talk about like childhood trauma and stuff like that, it is one of the things that obviously like I wish I didn't have childhood trauma and
Of
things like
course.
that, but at the same time I love who I am. I love what it gave me. I love the fact that like I'm somebody who is never going to shy away from something just because it's hard, and I am also the type of person who is just never I'm never going to be happy with like complicity, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I'm never
Yep.
gonna be happy with staying the same, which, to be fair, is a double-edged sword, and one of the things that, like, now that I've had such success in the business, now one of the questions that I've been facing is, "Okay, now that I've done this, how do I want to build in a way that honors me now rather
Yes.
than just functioning from a place of like fight or flight, which I feel like is honestly the vast majority of my life,
Yep.
because of how I was raised and the things that I went through in my life. And now it's like, now that I've done this for so long and we've had success, it's like the new question is, how do I keep building this in a way that continues to honor me, or that does finally start honoring me rather than just being a workhorse. You know what I mean? So that's like kind of the new era that I've been entering into,
Yeah.
which has been interesting. And then it's looking at like the ways that I have operated because of trauma and because of fight or flight. And it's like, hey, you don't got to do that anymore. So how do we change this to start building a business that works for you instead of you constantly working for it?
100%. Oh my God.
Mhm.
I loved all of that. The mere fact, the immigrant aspect and the childhood trauma, and actually being, I know for some people who are not over, it's not like I'm never going to be over my childhood fully. You know what I
No,
mean? Like,
no,
let's just
that's
call that what it is, right?
yeah.
But it's like, I'm over it enough.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
fucking over it enough, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like for people who are still in the trenches with it and are still attached to it so heavily, it's hard for them to hear that it's almost like I'm thankful for my trauma, but I say this shit all the time. It's like I've had the success that I've had in my businesses that I've built 100% because of what I experienced as a kid,
Yeah.
because it was hellacious, because it was hard, because I got used to living in chaos and instability and never knowing if we were going to have money and this and that. I'm like, oh, I could do an entrepreneur thing. I could be a fucking business owner.
Yeah, yeah, I thrive in chaos. I thrive in not knowing what's gonna happen next. Like, so
Yes,
yeah, I definitely
it's
and
crazy.
that's not to say you cannot build a successful business without having childhood trauma. Like by
Totally.
all means you absolutely can. It's just when it comes to I think about it of like there's a hunger that's required in pushing
Yes.
through. And that either comes from this massive conviction of what it is you are working towards and that obsession and that excitement and that will carry you, but also sometimes childhood trauma will carry you.
Yeah, literally.
Which are you can have both, and I think I have both, and that's one of
Yeah.
the things is it's like not only am I so obsessed with what I'm doing, not only do I see the vision, not only do I care so much about it, but also my biological makeup,
Yeah.
doesn't allow me to quit.
Literally, totally.
Yeah.
No, I fucking love this. Okay, so this is awesome because then, so you guys are right. So she goes through this entire process. She starts learning about how to invest, how to make money, what that looks like. She decides to be that bitch who digs herself out of a hole and is like standing on her own 2 feet and has her back. And then all of a sudden, 2021 rolls around and you get to quit your job to teach people about money on the internet. What the fuck? Like, and you
Yeah.
guys, if you'll see Chloe's information is going to be in our show notes, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But it's like you're going to go to Chloe's account, and you've got like what 400 and something thousand followers.
Yeah, something like that.
Like she's built a massive fucking reputation, a massive fucking brand. So talk to us about the decision to quit your job. That is definitely a that bitch move always. Were you like financially sound in the business already, or was this more of like I know where I'm going and I'm ready to run? Or talk to us about that.
Yeah, so January 2021 was when I decided to like give it everything that I had. I had kind of like been dabbling in the blogging space, YouTube space, like all these like kind of like half-ass showing up in all these
Yeah,
other spaces up until 2021. And at the end of 2020, I took a break from it all for a couple of months to decide if I wanted to continue like doing anything at all because it was just this like side project that I didn't really have a vision for. I didn't really know what I was doing.
sure.
And in January 2021, after the break, I had that moment where I was like, "Hey, okay, would you regret not giving this everything that you had for at least a year to see what happened?" And it was like, "Yeah, I would. How about I do that? Let me give this everything that I have for a year, and then I can reevaluate if this is something I want to continue to do." And so March 2021, I rebranded to Clobare Money Coach, and I started heavily working on Reels and TikToks. Those were the only two platforms that I was like, I'm gonna just dedicate myself to these two platforms, see what happens. And by October 2021, I was able to quit my job to do what I do now full time. And what I told myself when I started going hard on this, so in March, it wasn't long after. By April, I was getting like pretty consistent one-on-one coaching clients and things like that.
Yeah.
By May, I was having like a full booked out calendar in addition to my full-time job. And so around May, I was like, man, this really could turn into a thing. I think by May, I hit my first 10,000 followers.
Yeah.
And So I told myself, okay, I kept going back and forth on like, do I quit my cushy job to do this full time? Like, oh, I don't know. And what I decided was if I can make this was the only goal I had was if I can make $5,000 a month for at least 6 months and I can also save up a year emergency fund, then I will quit my job.
Yeah.
And I hit both of those by October, and just did it. And I was like, okay. And then after that, I think it was like, getting my finances right and knowing that I could live off of $5,000 a month was like, that was like, okay, check, check. But then October was like my first $10,000 month. Then November was like my first $20,000 month. And then I think by December it was like a 40 something $1,000 month. And so very quickly I was rewarded with, hey, I think you made the right decision from the universe, just being like, yeah, this is what you were supposed to do. Good job. Because I had so much more time to dedicate to it. And that was when I switched from one-on-one coaching to coursework and things like that. And
Yep.
yeah, it just kind of took off from there. But I did prepare myself by making sure that I already knew I could make at least $5,000 a month. And then
Yep.
that was just easier. It's easier to quit when you've already proven that what you offer works and people want it and you're good at it. And
Yep.
then also the emergency fund thing I think is huge too. I think too many people jump ship before they have like the finances to
Literally.
support them. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then that results in them having to quit, having to go back and get the job, you know what
Of
I mean?
course. I
So yeah.
I think people don't understand that, like, that safety level. I mean, like, first off, like, it's a literal biological need, and, like, our
Totally.
safety now in today's world is money. It is
Yep.
100% is fucking money. I don't care whatever anybody's like, "Money can't buy you happiness. Money can't this." I'm like,
I'll
"Fuck off."
challenge you on that though. It is. And also, I will say, so what I've been working on, because my childhood wound is so deep in money, that's why I'm obsessed with it, is like money to me is safety, which like capitalist America, yeah, okay, you can't argue that.
Yep.
But what I've been working with my therapist on, because I'm trying to release some of the vice grip
Totally.
that I have around, oh my God, I need to have as much money as possible so that I can like survive and be safe. She actually posed the question to me. She's like, what if safety came from the fact that you know you'll figure it out? And I was like,
Yes.
oh, well, I never even considered that. That's a great idea. Yes, money helps. That's definitely helpful. And I'm still going after that. But
Yeah.
that reframe of like actually safety comes from the fact that you have always figured it out. And no matter what happens, you will always continue to figure it out. And so I've been trying to do that as a reframe
Yes.
lately.
Yeah, but no, it is. It's 100. The way that I articulate that is it's like when you're rock solid with yourself and you're rock
Yep.
steady, like literally, you're so steady with yourself that it's like, no, I literally always fucking figure it out. There's always a way. You are going to be a bitch that wins. You are going to be a bitch that wins again and again and again because it's like, yes. Yes, money does give us financial safety, right? Like,
Yes,
yes, money
100%.
does give us fucking choice. It gives us all of these things, but it's like, and I mean, every fucking business owner I know has had an income dip at some point in their business journey. Every
Yep.
fucking income or every business owner I know at some point, like their expenses became too high or something happened or something, whatever it is, like it happens. And so it's like, no, 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 you're always coming back home to the fact that it's like, no, I am that bitch.
Yep. Yeah,
I am that
100%.
bitch that can figure it fucking out. So I love this. So, okay. So you have gone through the fucking ringer in your life, obviously. Childhood trauma, these abusive fucking relationships, getting yourself out of debt, growing this fucking insane brand that is serving and impacting so many fucking people. I mean, it's insane. This is why I love the online space. Like, I know, like, so many people throw so much shade at the online world and da 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 da. I'm like, you're all a bunch of fucking idiots because the truth is, if we all have geniuses. We all have certain skill sets that we're obsessed with, and we were like bartering and we were learning from each other and we were in relationship with each other. And it's like that's what I feel like this online space is. It's like I saw a man's account. I was like, if I could pay you, dude, I would give you $1 at least right now. It was like an 80-year-old man, 70-year-old man. He's called Gym Dad. And in like Australia, like girls who don't understand how to use like the gyms and like the workouts and whatever, he has come in and is like helping people just really kindly. Somebody started an account for him and he blew the fuck up. And now he's like the gym dad of Australia. And I'm like,
Wait, I love that. There's a
right?
niche for everybody. Yeah,
There is, like,
100%.
literally, and so it's like, I fucking love this, that it's like, you got so obsessed, you helped yourself, it's like, "Oh my god, I need more people to understand this," right? Like,
Totally. And like, one of the things too is like, yeah, of course, people always push back on like coaches and courses and programs and things
Yeah,
like that. The way that I always think about it is number one, I'm a big buyer of courses and coaches because I know
me too.
that buying courses and coaches is the shortcut. Yeah, you could do everything by yourself and on your own, and absolutely you could do that, but wouldn't it be nice to, like, figure it all out faster and, like, skip
Really.
all of the mistakes? The only way to do that is to hire a mentor or hire somebody to do it for you, unless you're just so well connected that somebody's gonna, like, take you under their wing for free, but,
Yes.
that is, I think, the thing is people who are growth minded and want to see progress on a faster timeline. It's like you gotta hire the help, and that's been a
You
big
do.
learning thing for me over the course of my life as well.
Absolutely. So, okay, so I love this, you guys. We're going to go into our That Bitch Files section of this podcast before I give you Chloe's information and she shares with us how you can connect with her because obviously you're going to connect with her after this. So, Chloe, these are 4 questions. I always say they're rapid fire. They're not, I fucking talk all the time. I'm a yapper. Okay. So, first question. One belief that you had to delete or eradicate to become this version of yourself.
Oh god, there were so many of them. The
Mhm.
first one that comes to mind is the idea that I don't have something to offer people. Especially when I first started teaching people about money and things like that, I had to get over that like imposter syndrome. And I still even face it now. Like even when we like as every time we hit a new pivot or we do something new, it's always the question comes into mind of like, what gave you the audacity? What was the what who said you could do that? And now, what gives me the audacity is, like, all the shit that I've done, but back then, it was just kinda like, well, I'm somebody who's just one step farther along on the money journey than most people are, and I can teach what I can teach. I'm never gonna teach something that I don't know about, but, like, if I can help some people, then I'm gonna try to help some people, and if they wanna pay me to do that, then they're gonna pay me to do that in the early stages. Then
Yep.
once I started seeing, like, how powerful of transformations my students were going through, it was just like, "Oh, good thing I got the audacity to do this because like now the amount of like the thousands and thousands of people that I've helped like never would have had this experience if I hadn't started doing it.
Yep.
They might have gone somewhere else. They might have gone to Dave Ramsey and had a terrible experience and ended up in a worse situation than what they were. And so really it was just this like this moment of who am I to do this? But luckily I had mentors who believed in me at the time and they were like, "Who are you to do this? What do you mean? Here's all these things that you're already doing," even though no one had
Exactly.
ever paid me to do anything for them. And I kind of just like got launched into the world of one-on-one coaching after a mentor, Saya Hillman, shout out to her. She saw what I was blogging about on the blog that I did prior to this, that like 4 people read. And I was just sharing my budgets every month and I was sharing what I spent. And she was like, "You have a skill that people need. Can you come do a workshop on budgeting?" And I was like, "Sure, I'm just budgeting for myself, but, like, I'll do it." And then after that workshop, people wanted to work with me one-on-one, and that kinda just, like, launched me into helping people with their money.
Oh, I
So yeah,
freaking love that.
that was helpful in that it was like, okay, I got instant proof that what I teach works.
Yep.
And that made me keep the audacity.
Well, and I say this literally, and I've said this on this podcast before, but it's like audacity is always gonna be your biggest moneymaker.
Mhm.
Audacity is always
Yeah.
your biggest fucking moneymaker. But it's like actually allowing yourself to have the audacity, that's where the work actually exists, you know?
Totally, yeah.
Okay, so what is one boundary or standard that you had to hold for yourself that made you money?
Hmm. So one boundary or standard that I had to hold for myself that made me money. Um, I would say it's probably after my first year of doing one-on-one coaching, I stopped doing one-on-one coaching
Mm,
because my I learned so much from it, and I think that's why I'm such a good coach now and educator now, but it was really, really taking up way too much of my time, and I wasn't able it held me back from helping more people, and
yep,
so I had to slowly phase it out, over time because it was just like, if I'm doing this and spending all my time doing this, I can't do the programs that are actually scalable for me, and it's something
100%.
even now I don't do one-on-one coaching. I will sometimes do one-on-one business coaching for a very hefty price, but that's
Sure.
very few and far between, and I will only take projects that I want to take on.
Yep.
But yeah, holding that boundary has helped me grow the business significantly for sure.
I love that because I think I feel like that's the bane. People sometimes when you see all the money that you can make in your one-to-one clients and it's like, okay, this is amazing, but it's like you really can only support 10 to 12 to 15 people max, depending upon what your offer actually looks like. And it's like if you really want to make the impact and you want to be serving 100, 200, 500, thousands of people, something's got to give. And
Yep,
again, that's a that bitch moment because that is you trusting in yourself to say, okay, well, then we're going for volume, then we're
yep.
going for this, then we're going for that. And trusting in yourself to actually be the one that makes it happen. Again, that bitch fucking move.
Hmm.
So, what is now one rule or lesson that you'd give or teach your younger self knowing what you know now?
That's so hard. There's so many
I
things.
know.
How much younger?
It doesn't matter. You whatever hits you in this moment.
I've been doing a lot of work on myself in the last year. A lot of work on like healing and understanding my neurodivergence and understanding like how I operate. And honestly, I think that if I could go back and talk to even me from like 5 years ago,
Mhm.
I would say, hey, all these things you don't like about yourself, the people pleasing, the stress levels, the fact that you feel like you could never really relax, the fact that like sometimes you feel like an outcast or can't connect to other people. None of that is your fault. It's because you're a lot further along on the autism spectrum than you won't realize that until your 30s. You won't
Yep.
realize that until later. But also, I did not know that I was abused as a child until I was 34. And when I learned that at 34 and I realized, oh, what I experienced as a child wasn't actually normal and I had normalized it my whole life because my whole family normalized it, the amount of compassion it gave me for the first time ever to
Yeah.
look at myself and be like, hey, you are so hard on yourself and so self critical. And I want you to know that that is not your fault. It's because of how you were raised and it's every aspect of how you were raised. And so to change those habits that like had been ingrained in me from as early as I can remember, getting that information of like, hey, just so you know, actually, all of this stuff that's happening is because one, you're much more neurodivergent than you realize, and two, you were abused as a kid.
Yep.
And if I had had that knowledge 5 years ago, even just 5 years ago, it would have saved me a lot of heartache, and I think I'd be further along in a variety of different parts of my journey.
Yep.
Granted, I do believe in divine timing. I think I learned it at the exact moment that I could handle that information
Yep.
because I don't know if I could have handled that information before, but it would have been nice to, cut out my parents earlier and to start that healing process without them in my life sooner. But again, at the same time, things are working out.
Well, yes, because you could be great. Like that's what it is. It's like the path is the path. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like,
The path is the path. You can't really
yeah.
change it because it's like even like I'll talk about like I met my fiance at 33 and went through a ton of like dating shit to get there. And I don't think that there was any time in my life where I would have met him and given him a chance up until the moment that it actually happened. And it's like you can say that for literally everything in life. And like so like I don't regret it, like, I'm glad things have worked out that the way that they are, and obviously the information would have been helpful, but I'm
Yeah.
also happy with where my life is right now,
Right.
so it's okay.
But yeah, but see now this, it's like whoever is listening to this right now, it's like if you're in a position that's similar to Chloe, where she was, like you're hearing her say, I wish I would have started this journey earlier. I wish I would have understood this earlier. I wish I would have had this lesson earlier. It's like if you're avoiding doing any of this, or if there's a part of you that's like, I don't need to do that, or I don't need to look at that, I don't need to honestly have more self love and compassion for ourselves. I'm telling you, it is the pathway that cracks you wide open. It cracks
Yeah.
you wide open to that rock solidness and who you really are. Um, but yeah, so no, I love that. And then I have one last question, and this is my favorite question. So it is just a finishing of the sentence. Okay. So I'm just going to
Mhm.
read a sentence to you, and then you're going to pop in an answer for me. So
Alright.
the sentence is, you know, you are that bitch when.
Hmm. Gosh, that's a really good question. You know you are that bitch when The first two answers that come to mind is when you can see how far you've come, you know?
Mm,
Like, when you can actually take a moment to appreciate everything that you've done.
yep,
Um, that's the first one that comes to mind. I think it's 'cause that's, like, where I'm at in my journey right now is reminding myself, "Look at all this shit that you've done, and, like, this is only the beginning, and, like, look at, like, the amount of shit you're going to do and how you're going to continue to change his lives, like, here's the proof in the pudding, and the
yep.
rest is yours."
Mm, I freaking love that, Chloe. I love that so freaking much. Chloe, honestly, this has been such a delicious podcast, such a delicious recording. Thank you so much for sharing
Yeah!
your story, your journey, and who you are. So, for everybody that's listening, where can they find you? Can you share your Instagram handle or whatever other contact information you want to give us?
Yeah, you guys can find me everywhere at Clobare Money Coach, and bear is spelled Bare, if that's helpful.
Amazing. And you guys will find her link in our show notes. So, literally, just go follow her. She's a fucking gem of a human. And obviously, part of my brand is being a money making queen. This bitch is a money making queen. Okay. All right, you guys. So thank you guys so much for listening. And we will be back next week with another episode of That Bitch. Hope you guys have a beautiful fucking week and we will see you soon.